Hello, everybody. This is John Browning with Guardian Rock Wealth on the Building Your Life podcast. We've got another great episode for you. We have today with us a special guest, Robert Brown. He is the podcaster. He's got his own podcast, comes out every single week called The Purpose Focused Advisor. He's also the author of a book that I think you all should go out on Amazon today and get. It's called The Truest Fan. And I read that book. It's been maybe a month and a half ago or something like that. It really sort of made you think, and it was entertaining at the same time, which is always good. And also a pretty major league baseball fan. Am I right?
Absolutely right. But more specifically, a Cleveland baseball fan.
Cleveland fan, which we're going to have to forgive him for. I am a Cubs fan, but it's only because I spent so much time in Chicago. I kind of have to be a Cubs fan. So,
Yeah. Well, you have 2016 and we don't. So there you go.
That's true. That's true. When was the last time Cleveland won? And should I not ask that?
1948.
1948. Well, we had that streak as well. And then, we still didn't win it, by the way. We just got to it. So, oh well. But I had the opportunity to work with Mr. Tom Ricketts, whose family owns the Cubs, and that was a lot of fun. Had some business meetings in the owner's box, and there's nothing like watching a game with the owner of the team. That's just a lot of fun.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah. So Rob, tell us just a little bit about what you do. And you actually work with financial advisors. And at one point in time, you were a financial advisor. Am I right?
That's absolutely right. I was a financial advisor myself for about 25 years. During those years, I also was the chief operating officer of a regional investment firm and said grace over about 250 other advisors. And that led me to a decision to want to spend time working with more advisors. So I opened a consultancy where my coaching and consulting clients are people like you, John, financial advisors who are looking to build better practices so that you can do a better job serving your clients and growing your business.
So tell me again, how long were you an actual advisor for?
25 years.
25 years. And then you were in charge of what, how many did you say? 200 and
About 250. Yeah. And that was actually happening simultaneously. It was like
yeah.
like what they call those prison sentences when you serve the terms at the same time and not one after the other.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So
But it wasn't like prison. I loved what I did, but I really enjoyed helping the advisors that I was saying grace over build better practices. And that's really what sparked my coaching and consulting business.
BBP. I like the initials. So build better practices. And so if you've done this for 25 years, I've managed money for about 33 years. But it is safe to say that you have forgotten more than I may ever know about being a financial advisor, even though I've been doing it for quite a while now. So I'm really interested to talk to you a little bit today and share this with our audience.
Yeah. I don't know about forgotten. I like to think that I'm like the elephant that never forgets
Never
because,
forgets.
one of the things that is fun about doing what I've done is most of the challenges that my clients face, most of the things they're looking to do, I've experienced them before, but it's always in different ways because just like your clients, no two are the same. You could be helping two clients with the exact same amount of money plan for retirement, but the path to their successful retirement, a happy retirement, is going to be different because of different family circumstances and different goals. And that's the way it is for me and my financial advisor clients.
Yeah, that's one of my biggest points is when I get up and I speak in front of a group of people, I think it frustrates some folks in that it's difficult for me to say, but I have to say it. Hey, this is not financial advice when I'm speaking to a group of people because, like, say, everybody's different. And everybody gets, oh, everybody always says that. But you think about it, everything that happened in your life up until right now has shaped your perspective and the way you look at your life and what your best life will be. And one of the things I tell people all the time is don't let blind people proofread your vision. And I say that because so many times we let our mother, our brother, our sister, or whatever the guy at the standing next to us at the water cooler says shape what we're trying to do in our financial world to create our best lives, right? But you're exactly right.
Yeah, no, it's your best life. It's not somebody else's best life. And people can give you perspectives that may be worth listening to. A lot of times, especially at the water cooler, they aren't. Or if there are water coolers anymore, I'm not sure about
Yeah, I'm
that.
not sure if there
Um,
are.
it used to me, for me, the conversations that you had when you were getting your shoes shined.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
now it doesn't seem like we wear many shoes that need to get shined, but
Things have changed a little bit over the years,
a
right?
little bit. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I remember I used to wear a suit and tie every single day, and now I do my best to, I can't say never, but almost never wear a suit and tie.
I had to wear a suit and tie over the weekend, and I literally could not remember the last time I tied a tie. And I used to love wearing stiff collared shirts with ties. So I don't know where that went, but times have changed for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And the I don't know if you wear, I always wear the cufflinks and everything with the stuff. And now when I go to try and put one of those on, it takes me forever to figure out how did I do this all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah. I was right there with you on Saturday.
yeah, yeah. So with all of that experience sitting on the other side of this podcast, let me ask you a couple things. What what makes a great advisor as opposed to just eh, a good advisor?
I think the number one thing that makes an advisor great is the advisor who asks good questions and really wants to dig deep into getting to know what it is that really makes the client tick, what their dreams are, what their goals are, what good experiences they've had, what bad experience they've had. Because with that information, you can create a plan for them going forward, whether it's an investment plan or a financial plan or a retirement plan. So the advisor who knows how to ask good questions, get engaged in conversations, really listen to the client, ask the client why they feel the way that they do. That is the first step and maybe the most important step because a lot of the other things can then be plugged in to the client's story.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I warn people when I first meet with them that I kind of become like a 2-year old. So not only do I ask them those questions, but I ask them why. You know, that 2-year old, 3-year old is always, oh, why is that? Why is that? But I find that that really gets you to that exactly what you're talking about. It gets you to that place where not only do I, as the advisor, understand better where they're coming from and what things are going to bother them versus what things are going to like, but and how to design that plan around that. But it also helps them get in touch with who they are and why they think they want what they want. And sometimes they find out, especially when it's with a husband and wife, a lot of times I'll watch and see one spouse kind of flip to the other side, and all of a sudden, no, it's not the same as when we first started. So those questions are really important.
Yeah, you have to ask those questions because that's ultimately what a financial advisor is solving for is what that client really wants because most financial advisors have all of the tools they need. They have financial planning software, they have portfolio management tools, they have all sorts of great technology and other things that they can do, but those things aren't important. What's really important is what do you really want to accomplish to have that life that you really want to leave, the best life that you possibly can. And that comes from truly understanding it. And that makes, to me, that makes the best advisors stand out.
Yeah. So along those same lines, I get sometimes asked the question too, well, I'm somebody who's looking for an investment advisor. What questions should I be asking if I'm the client or prospective client? What should I be asking my investment advisor? What should they be telling me?
The first thing that I would ask is, what is your process? I'm coming here to you today because I was introduced to you, or there was some other mechanism that got me in front of you. So tell me what's going to happen from today, the day we're first meeting, through the time that you actually begin working with me. And then maybe if we work together for a number of years, what's that ongoing process going to look like? Because unfortunately, too many advisors can't answer that question. They don't have a system in place to take their clients from where they are when they first start to work together to where that client says they want to be in the future. And just so that's where, and that's kind of putting the puzzle together of the advisor asking good questions, is that helps the advisor take that client down that path. And too many advisors, they'll just kind of share some, well, I listen really well. I have lots of integrity. You can trust me. And those are all good things, and they may be true. And maybe even at the heart, that advisor could do a good job. But if you're meeting an advisor for the first time and they can't tell you what it's going to look like from day one to day into forever, then you've got to ask yourself, do I really want to work with somebody to help me put a plan together that doesn't have a plan to help me put a plan together?
It's 100% about the plan, and understood that plans survive only, the first punch, right? So to speak. But if you don't have that plan to how to react to the first punch, which will come in any financial plan or any other plan, then you're just going to be running around in circles. Yeah.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah. And it's, for me at Guardian Rock Wealth, and this is something that I got better at as I did it more, was I realized that my plan for client A is different from my plan for client B, because they're in a, like we just talked about, they're in a different space. They're in a different point in time in their life. Their perspectives are different. So one process may be slightly different, but there's one overall all-encompassing process that we use at Guardian Rock. And I think we've done a couple podcasts on the Building Your Life podcast about the process. But I think you're right. That's extremely important. What's your process? Any other good questions to ask and make sure you get a good answer to, that a good answer that you like and you understand too?
Tell me about your team. That's an important question, because financial advisor teams come in lots of different shapes and sizes.
Mhm.
There are advisory practices that only have one or two primary employees on the team, and that's okay. It's because the size of the team really doesn't matter. But that advisor that has the small team needs to have a support network of other professionals that they work with so that they can execute on the financial plan once it's in place. So what does your team look like? Who supports what you do? Whether you're on a big team and it's all done in-house, or it's a small team and you have outside resources. So what does your team look like? I think that's a really important question, because you don't want to rely on just one person who's very closed-minded, is as smart as they may be, if they don't have other people out there to support them. So I think asking about their team is really important.
Mhm.
I think asking them about their experience is important as well. What kind of experience do they really have in doing what they're doing? And younger they are, the better they better be, the better they should be able to answer that team question.
Right.
Um, right. And the more experienced they are, maybe the team becomes a little bit, um, the obvious need for the importance of the rest of the team becomes a little bit less important because they have that experience where they can do a lot of things through their smaller team. So I think those are a couple of things that come to mind right away that are really important.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's like I don't want to disqualify the younger advisors because there's some great younger advisors out there. But I think for me, I would want to know that there's somebody with a few more gray hairs that they are going to bounce those ideas off of. Because I remember when I was young, I had some ideas that's how I got to where I am today, is making some pretty horrible mistakes. And thankfully they were recoverable, and they were mostly on my dime. But I remember I was very sure I was right when I was younger, and I wasn't. So it's good to know what team they're using and kind of get a feel. And this is kind of the intangible of it. How open are they to taking some of that advice, maybe from a mentor or something like that?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just remember when I first got started as a financial planner, um, I was part of a really big firm that was training hundreds of advisors at the same time. And many of us were very, very young. I was just a couple of years out of college. And one of the trainers who worked with us during that training period said something to me that I still remember to this day in my current business. When somebody asks you a question that you don't know the answer to, tell them, I don't know the answer to that question, but I know how to get the answer because I either have somebody on my team that does that or I work with some other professional who does that.
Hmm.
And so that's a really important way to think about that advisor relationship. I'd much rather work with a younger, less experienced advisor who asks good questions, um, but also has an openness to say, hey, some things I can tell you right away, some things that may take me a little bit longer, but I can pull it all together, than that older, over self-assured advisor who thinks he knows it all and guesses at the answers to some questions.
Yes, I've become adept. The older I get, sometimes it seems like the less I know, or maybe it's the less sure I am. I'm saying that a lot. I'm not sure about the answer to that question. Matter of fact, I said it on the podcast not too long ago because my podcast host asked me a question, and we do this live. This is unedited, and I was like, you know what? I'm not sure, but here's what I think, and I will come back and put the right answer in if I'm wrong. I happen to be right on that one, but I have no problem at all telling somebody I'm going to come back to you on that. And I usually give them a 24-hour period, unless they need it sooner, and then I'll get it to them in their time frame if that's possible. But so at Guardian Rock, and you're on the Building Your Life podcast, we build like a personal board of directors around our clients and around ourselves for that matter, because I'm not your tax expert. I know just enough to make me dangerous and ask really good questions for a CPA. I'm not your estate planning expert, but I know enough to ask really good questions. And I'm not really the insurance expert either. I know, I'm a licensed insurance life and health, but I pass that off because I can't be excellent at everything. So I outsource that part of our practice as well. So so I've got my own personal board of directors as well as building that around our clients, and I find that to be really important. When I was working at Morgan Stanley, I had a team, and I had a chief of staff, and I outsourced a whole lot of stuff. So that's a great way to go about it. But before we close out here, because I feel like I've got so much experience on the other side of this podcast here that I want to make sure that our audience gets the idea of anything else you think that a client should know before they engage a financial advisor, or even maybe they do have an investment advisor, but they're wondering if they have the right one? And then maybe if you could touch on what's the value of even having an investment advisor? Why not just do it yourself?
Right. Well, there's a lot there, John. But I guess in thinking again about, what kinds of things do you want to know before you hire somebody as a financial advisor? If you're confident they know how to ask good questions, they have a process, and that they're well supported, then I think the only other things you want to know is, what kinds of licensure do they have? Do they have a CFP designation? If that's important to you, that could be another thing that you might ask. Um, the best financial advisors are not all CFPs, but CFPs tend to be, have spent a little bit more time focusing on their education on financial planning. And I guess I'm trying to dig a little bit deeper here and think about a different way to ask a question of an advisor. And maybe it might be, based on that initial part of the meeting where the future client has told this advisor they're meeting, what their big goals are, and they're moving towards moving they're moving towards becoming a client. Ask that advisor, do you have any experiences that are similar to mine? Because sometimes it's nice to know that your advisor works with other high earning entrepreneurs if you're a high earning entrepreneur.
Right.
But if you're an advisor who works mostly with uh, people who are just retiring out of uh, a big company and maybe just had kind of a normal everyday important but normal everyday job versus that other niche that they might be focusing on, kind of understanding, are there some similar experiences that you can bring to that, because that can help with the relationship. I know that I encourage my advisor clients to think about uh, working with similar type clients, because that allows them to get even deeper in their knowledge of that specific type of client. So that would be another thing. Um, if I were, if I was working with an advisor for a long time,
Mhm.
and I was wondering, we haven't really talked about our relationship very much, and kind of what it is you're doing to get better at what you do so that I can be more successful as your client. I might ask that advisor to remind me of what his process or her process is, to see if that advisor actually has a process in place. A lot has changed in the industry, over the last 5, 10, 15 years, where the best advisors who could have been, uh, who the best advisors several years ago may fall off because they aren't keeping up with the trends in the industry and the ways that they can serve their clients better. So, just refresh that conversation around process. Ask yourself, or ask the advisor, when's the last time you did a complete review of my financial plan? Why aren't we meeting as often as you said we would meet when we first established this relationship?
Right.
Um, it's those same questions, but just asked from a different perspective, because sometimes you do need to get a second opinion. Sometimes, and this is true in any business, a professional can take a client for granted because they think they know all they need to know about that client. But when you think about your life as a client of an advisor and the changes that you might have gone through over the last 5, 10, 15 years, you changed jobs, you received an inheritance, you have a special needs child whose circumstances have changed. A lot can change in your life. And that advisor isn't asking those good questions, doesn't have a process, then they may not be serving you as well as you think they are.
Yep. And you know what I find too is that it's my responsibility as the investment advisor to reach out every once in a while, because sometimes I haven't heard from you in a while, even though, and maybe you've missed a meeting. Oh, I can't make that meeting. And so we just let that slide. And so many times I'm surprised by what has happened over the past 3 or 4 months. And so your advisor should be reaching out to you. And hey, if you don't call them back, that's on you, right? But they should be reaching out to you as well. So all
Yeah,
that.
that's part of that process that you need to be informed on. Your part of your advisor's process should be what is the ongoing communication plan that you have between each other? How often did you agree to meet? What types of communication do you prefer? Do you like to meet on Zoom? Do you like to have in-person meetings? Phone calls okay, emails, it doesn't matter. But what is that process? Because as you said, things can change and change quickly, and it's the advisor's responsibility to keep up with those changes, but it's the client's responsibility to answer the questions and come to those meetings or return those phone calls. Because if they don't, then the advisor can't help with something that may have changed.
Right. So final question. So drum roll here. This is the big one, right? And we hear this all the time. And for some people, this is the right answer, depending on where you are in your financial journey. But why not just do it myself? It's all you do is buy the index fund anyway, right? That's really all that's necessary. Just buy the S&P 500.
You do it because you only live one life, and it really makes sense to have somebody guiding you through your financial planning, your life planning, your retirement planning, who's done it more than the first time. You spend more time planning vacations and working with people like that sometimes than you do, with a financial planner, with a financial advisor. And so I think that's one important reason. The other reason is, I don't know what the percentage is, 80, 90% of the time that you're working with an advisor, there's just some hand holding going on. Things are just going along the way that they are supposed to go along. But then stuff happens that causes major shifts in your emotional behavior, the way that you react to something, because maybe there's been something terrible going on in the market and you've gotten worried about your portfolio. Maybe there's something horrible has happened inside of your family, or you've lost a job that you weren't expecting to lose, or there's changes in the tax laws. There's just so much that can happen in our lives where we just need to be able to quickly go to a financial professional who knows us, who's been holding our hands and saying, hey, I need a little bit extra help. And it's during those periods of time where the investment in the relationship with that advisor is exponential. You can hardly measure it in dollars and cents. I can't tell you how many situations I've run into where an advisor has saved a client hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, just because they've guided them through some tough periods and gotten them through to the other side of that. And I'm a big believer in looking for help of professionals in doing things that I don't do all the time. And I know that there'll probably some people listening, well, I'm really good at this. I have been kind of working on my financial plan my whole life, and a lot of times it's the husband who's excluded the wife from all the thinking.
Yeah.
So husband, or it could be a wife, it could be the opposite situation. Who's going to be the one to help your spouse if something happens to you? Do you want them to pick up from scratch, not knowing anything about you? Or would it have been better to maybe have a co-pilot during the time that you're still around and maybe doing some of the work, offering a little bit more influence into the plan, but you've got that backup. So I can hardly think of a time when it would make sense not to have a financial advisor. And I even say this to my clients who are financial advisors, because sometimes they're a little bit like um, the what's the cobbler whose children have
No
holes in their
shoes.
shoes.
Yes.
You just can't be that way. You need to have that plan and that person that can guide you through it with calmness, inexperience, and compassion, because they really do care about you and your life.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I will tell people who pose that question to me as a financial advisor. Well, why do I need you? Is two things that I'll say to them. I said, well, if I said number one is I'm not my own financial advisor. I have somebody that I go to because I'm myopic, right? There's things that are right in front of my face that I'm not going to see because it's my life. And we are all that way. I don't know anyone who's not. We all need a coach, right? No matter how good you are at something, you're not going to see the forest for the trees in your own life. And I've had my financial advisor just kind of, we have this kind of relationship where like kind of hit me upside the head and said, what are you doing? You know you shouldn't take that risk, or you shouldn't do this. And they're right. He's right. So number one, if a financial advisor has a financial advisor, that should tell you something. And the second thing I give them is the illustration of, you don't see a surgeon performing surgeon on themselves or a lawyer representing themselves in court. It's just generally a bad idea. And you're so right. We spend more time planning our vacations that'll last maybe a week or 2 weeks or maybe a month than we do our lives, which hopefully are going to last a whole lot longer, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, how's the best way for someone to get in touch with you? How can they get your book, Truest Fan, which is amazing? Everybody should buy a copy of that. It's great. How's the best way to do that?
So the best way to learn about me is just to go to truestfan.com. And through that website, you can learn about the work that I do with other financial advisors, and you can get a copy of my book. It's Truest Fan, and it's if I do say so myself, it is an awesome book. I was just reflecting on it the other day because it's been a few years since I wrote it, uh, and I wrote it because I think it's really important for all of us to be truest fans of ourselves and be truest fans of the people who are around us. Because if we really treat people absolutely the way that we would like to be treated, and treat ourselves the way that we would like to be treated, and have um, that confidence in ourselves and authenticity in ourselves, our lives gets a lot better. And so it's a great book. I wrote it as a way for me to share with my daughters, to really kind of understand what I thought were some of the most important lessons in life. But I wrote the book in a fable style, so that it's a story. It's easy to read, and it delivers a powerful message. So I appreciate the opportunity to mention a little bit about it.
Yeah, I really like it because I think in this day and age, we'll say we've become a little cynical, right? There's so many polarizing subjects and whatever that nobody really has my best interest in mind, and that is, I think, a cancer. That mindset really is a cancer, because there are people out there who really do care about you, whether some people who don't even know you. You know this because you have people rescuing people that have never met them before. You have, and I'm that way. I absolutely love to help you. Nothing makes me feel better than when I can use something that I know how to do to help somebody else. And I love being the truest fan of my kids, my grandkids, and of other people that I network with. And on my, we talked about our building that board of directors. I'm the truest fan of everybody on my board of directors. I want to see them succeed, and if they succeed over me, fantastic. I'm fine with that. That makes me feel good, also. So, and that's what the book is kind of about, is
Right.
doing it and being purposeful about it. It's a great book. Truest Fan, truestfan.com.
Yep, that's it.
All right. And everyone who normally listens to the Building Your Life podcast knows that I am John Browning, and you can find me at guardianrockwealth.com, or you can text the word life to 321 421 5213 and get all of my information. You'll go out to the website and see my process. The Guardian Rock Wealth process is right there on the website. And we would love to talk to you no matter where you are in your personal financial journey. So thanks a lot, Rob, for being with us on the show today. And we'll see you again soon.
Take care, John.
All right.